I would like to extend a warm welcome to all the participants. Welcome everyone, touch the leg. And I would like to inform you that Tenzin Lakpala is going to be Geshe's last translator for today's course. Thank you, Tenzin Lakpala. And I'm going to remind you about the schedule of the classes. So the text, as you know, is Nagarjuna letter to a friend, and the teachings are led by Geshe Lobsang Tenzin. And the dates for the course of this year, 2024, are April 28th, July 14th and 28th, August 14th and 25th, September 1st and 22nd, October 6th and 27th, and November 10th and 17th. And the time is from 3 p.m. until 4:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. And now I'm going to share the screen with you. We are going to recite the prayers. Please keep your microphone switched off. Thank you. Taking refuge in generating bodhicitta, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulation of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulation of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. And now the four immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings not be separated from the bliss that is free of suffering. May all sentient beings live in equanimity, free from attachment and hatred towards those near and far. May all sentient beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and the cause of suffering. May all sentient beings not be separated from bliss that is free of suffering. May all sentient beings live in equanimity, free from attachment and hatred towards those near and far. May all sentient beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and the cause of suffering. May all sentient beings not be separated from the bliss that is free of suffering. May all sentient beings live in equanimity, free from attachment and hatred towards those near and far. And now I would like to invite Geshe La to start the teachings. Thank you, Geshe La.
방에 도진 했었는데 떠봤던 제 보면서 담배신에 된다고 고담되나 저때 저희들의 여러분 thank you Ila to introduction to begin the teaching. So I'm very happy to see you again. So now we are going to begin teaching. 어떻게 상관 적이 되죠라. 패진 속시라 패진 좋거든. 패진 좋시야 다 계산을 때문에 시원하지. 계산과 가르쳐버때 아니 안 되고라. this 검자지. 대 매검세지. 매배. 대치는 당부 패진 소저가 속보된 남진나지 않네 속보를 흘려진데 속보 강바다 락바다 제비로 찾아 속보 흘려진 근데 저보다 안에 오 단님 뒤전대랑 오들의 오중오들의 된 숨쉬어지 어디지 당뭐
Uh, Tashitele to everyone, and I'm very glad to see every one of you, all the participants for the class. So before we begin our session today, let us begin by a reflective meditation on what we have studied in the previous class, which is on the six perfections or the six paramitas. So sit in the most comfortable posture, meditative posture, and then inhale and exhale normally a few times to calm down and then dwell in your sitting position.
아니 다 집에 걸어 섬다로지 심바
Now, think about the practice of generosity.
나 주름 되나 안에 뜻 몇 주름 주름다 안에 겨버치되 주름 샘제 된제 주름도 써다 주름 어디에 농아 예수님께 맞춰 봤다 메저라 어딘전 안 쌈다
And then now focus your mind towards the practice of discipline, such as the discipline pertaining the 10 precepts and the discipline so on, which is discipline that is able to restrict our actions of the body, mind, and the speech.
근데 다 소파 공부해 소파 되는 공부님 보임 받아 공부 좀 가서 소파 공부해 어떤 쪽에서 싫어 그래서 안에 섬을 디스코
And now about the practice of tolerance, how to practice tolerance in times of arising of great anger, and how to counter these afflictions of anger by the practice of tolerance. So now focus and meditate on the practice of tolerance.
근데 내 쌈대에서는 째지고 근데 째지고 지된 게다 쌈로대 봐줘 째지를 내라 요바텔라 다티 같이 챙기니다 친구도 그 봐서로 근데 뭐센 요미도 간대지나 별로 째지고 내대 봐줘 어디를 쌈대서는 내려지도 쌈매지 내 쌈다
And now now focus yourself into a deep contemplation or meditative absorption. The two factors which obstructs us from having a meditative absorption, the hyperactive mind and the dull mind. To think about the countering these two mind of being hyperactive and either being hyperactive or dull. So to counter this and think about the practice of having deep contemplation or meditative absorption.
근데 내가 준비 있어줘라 준비 있어야 되네 이렇게 좀 마셔 저 준비 가다 같이 봐 있나요 저거 가다 같이 봐 준비 좀 해봐 있나고 따다 때 대고 말았어 차상아 정도고 맞아서 준비 있어야 좀 받쳐야 돼
And then focus your mind towards the practice of perseverance. No actions can be accomplished without a great deal of perseverance. And so, considering this as an important practice, focus your mind and meditate on the practice of perseverance.
인터마트 싫어 다 실업세 계산도 실업세 같은 것도 원본간는 민당신 소라 다 실업세 캐치 보인 실업게 아니 저거데 제가 저거데 아니 먼저 중공 강화탐제 중공 그조 중세대 머리버 있는 보다 실업을 했어 다 실업세 걸 삼다
And then finally, meditate on the sixth perfection, which is the perfection of wisdom. And as we have already discussed, the analogy of wisdom being the eye of all of the previous five perfections, as the cause of our suffering is the ignorance, and our antidote to the ignorance or counter to the ignorance is the wisdom. And so, therefore, meditate and focus on the sixth perfection of wisdom.
근데 네 계산도 쉬어도 다 되는 거 좋고 줘야 되다 진짜 돌아도 봐다 지우송 남je를 봐 돌아도 봐다 되네 조사스 다 되는 수 맞게벌 거죠 제가들한테 지우 동거 지우 충고도 도망별 남제와 근데 땡도 도망별 남제와 시도는다 근데 지우 충고도 도망별 남제와 시바들라 아니 대전도 맞 주룩 시오다 대전 주룩군에 시고르스 방들은 바신도 주룩군 대전 근데 대저들 마스 티치 되는 건도 대 고바들은 맞고 좀
So these were our subject of a discussion in the previous class. We talked briefly about the principal path of the three types of practitioner. And so today we're going to discuss briefly about we're going to talk about briefly about the practice of the lesser or the smaller the practitioner with the lesser or a smaller mind capacity. And so this particular concept will be divided into 16 different subsubjects or groups.
나때 당보들한테 인지나한테 앱이 되시더라 애들에도 당보들하다디 반말로 그거쳐 봐서 되시다 반말로 그거쳐 봐서 당보들 다디 지도는 파 칸라 파다마다 추바이 레디 산세 르베 제발라스 대달라죠 저거 주거든스 레말라냐 둘이 주발라스
So the first of these 16 subsubjects or groups, the first one is to have respect for one's parents. So as stated by Nagarjuna in the text, it states, the race of one who worships father and mother is in company of Brahma and that of preceptors. Through revering them, one will win fame and later will attain the highest status.
파말라딘데 그십 지역에 가서는 개점 붙여고서 파마데 땡전에 땡전에는 파말라인데 그십 저 파말라 십지 쉬어야 돼. 네, 항상 있다. 저기 식당이다. 매주도다. 지금 최도는 많이 봐야나 돼 항상 개점 붙여고서. 다이나야 강아지 가야서나 카시엘라다. 미 카시엘라. 네 파마가 참조 맞다고 들려서 담내나. 밀스보다 메나 카시엘라 네 파마가 참조 맞다고 내도들 차여서. 다들 차에 대한 조짐 방법이 가제 안에 중앙 가서는 저 집에 가서 한번 안에 총도 봐. 한번 돈이 몇 줘 보지. 근데 가제 양 딜레 두 가지 삽세나 안에 한방에 돼. 뒤에는 욕셔야 되네. 늦지도 가시를 열다. 좀 망고들 열다 돼. 한방에 뒤에 따보 맞죠. 나가가는 욕셔 같은데 꼭 가셔 열. 딱 가제 양딜 나가는 좀 맞지. 수네 간담라는 야메탄. 따보 맞죠. 안에 파마나. 돼 시라게. 같은 semboye masame tinde yoris da tinje netan tinde khacheji yore tinje tele homa kheche boye se natis namsang khor kadula ni tis tis kharsor tis samotan khaboro chewus tinde netan yoris.
So the first one, which is to have respect for one's parents. So even if we talk in a more non-religious aspect, to revere one's parents is a very important virtue. It is because of the virtuousness of the object of reverence parents as an object of reverence is a very virtuous object of reverence. And so because of that very virtue of being a virtuous object of reverence, it is important to revere one's parents, not only through the perspective of religion, but also through the perspective of the worldly sense. In a sense of a society, it is important to revere one's parents. But then there are also some cases in which this particular concept may be very difficult to comprehend by some people, especially those who have not experienced the love and compassion of one's parents. There may be cases of children who were born orphan, meaning that their parents would have either their parents were not there when they were born, or they died when before at the time they were born. And so because for these people who have not experienced the compassion and the loving kindness of their parents, and then secondly, those who have been abandoned by their biological parents. So these people, for them to directly tell them about the concept of revering and respecting one's parents on the basis of the loving kindness and the compassion that has been received by them, by the parents, is a very difficult concept. And so for them, it will be a very difficult concept to explain uh, as contrast to those who have experienced the love and kindness of the parents.
그래서 나 가시에 바쁘 집에 가서 밥만 통해 되네. 또 가서요 말이야. 믹사스 좀 제시해요 말이야. 그런데 다 소소게 레터 슈터는 시와 나다 수 레터 그래서 저라 다 같이 보고 밤하게 딱 보면 저 육션 줘야 되나 디스다 야랍상교도 개발도 시고라 진짜 저에나 소소가 밤하게 근데 제시해서 주스 하고 와이나 또 콘돌랑 인데 제요 말스 딱 보랑 밤하게 근데 육샤고다 나가가는 육종에다 같이 디스 딱 버전에 육샤게 된저 가르쳐 준다 내가 없으니 이제 밤하고 그런 거 강아지 체 강아지 기견제 근데 같이 맞에 장제도 보통은 인데 체인들이 삼여가 근데 돈은 삼부터 근데 범하게 getting 스템바도나야 돼 콩로사야라 속바다 다디 배트 소소다 독자 시원이 있으면 되는 삼다요 말이야.
So for the people who were born orphan, for them, they should think as that to be born as an orphan might have something to do with my past life karma, that I was born in such a way. And so in that case, they could condition their mind to look towards a more sort of a positive aspect of it, rather than looking at a more negative aspect. But then this becomes even more severe for those who were abandoned during the time of their birth, children who were left on the doorsteps of, let's say, doorsteps of churches or any other places. So for those children, initially, when they think about their parents, the only emotions that may arise within them would be anger and hatred, and a sort of disgust towards their parents. But then it is important to still sort of scrutinize over that idea and think that, oh, my parents have abandoned me, and that at that particular point in life, there must have been a sort of a reason why it was done. There might have been a sort of purpose why they have done. Maybe it might be the circumstance or certain reason. And so even though one may not, in those cases, one may not be able to arise a emotion of respect, of reverence towards their parents, they should at most try to look at to bring up an emotion where they at most or at least they may not hate, or they may not form hatred towards their parents. And this is a practice that they could uphold if they cannot bring up the emotion of reverence and respect towards their parents who have abandoned them.
나는 제가 내 건도는 연자 되는 저기 있어. 삼도 신바 가서나 파마 getting 트레마 가서 파마 땅 어좀 해봐. 이나 파마는 신기 다 답보장게 빈자이 나래다 수이네. 된소다 아니야. 가젤을 보다 뭐뭐 답보죠. 저 가젤은 아시아 우리 쏘고 되게 답보죠. 된소의 파마에 변나신 삼상게 삼도 다니다. 소소 파마들이야 다디 소소 getting 가르쳐 되는 상고서나 파마들 그런 류들나라 쏘고 그냥 매제 되는데 파마니 같은 데는 총라서 단자빠도 저런 롭종 라이나 카레 라이나 잡혔 지 롭종 라이나를 컨데스 라이나 단다 레데들 또 건전 얘기 안에 저런 게 밤하게 밀려있 나왔어 밀려있는 나와는 때네 저런 데 총했어 그때 딘데 진나매만나 단다가도 저런 가르쳐 봐 렉배차 가르쳐 또 상마용 싸워려 맞어. 그래서 데토네야 근데 파마세 근데 구십씩 버려서 뭐 데토 sometimes.
So for them, even though they may not have their biological parents in their life, there are cases when there are guardians and parent figures in their life. For example, for some cases, they may have foster parents. From some cases, they may have grandparents, uncles, and aunties who would look after them as their own child. So therefore, when they think about these feelings, they can visualize them as the object of reverence and then revere them as a practice of having respect towards one's parents. And then now the question arises, even though they have abandoned you, the biological parents, why should we have a sense of respect or reverence towards them? And then the answer is that whatever you have achieved in your life, whatever good things that have happened in your life, despite of everything, it was only possible because of this physical body that manifested. And because of the manifestation of these physical body, you were able to achieve something. You were able to achieve the good things, achieve the things that you value in your life. And it would not have been possible in the first place if uh, you were not given the life that you have. And so you can imagine that it as I am thankful for this life that was, and the body, the physical body that was provided to me, because of which I was able to experience everything and then achieve things which are currently very precious to me. And so therefore, if one may want to visualize the practice of respect towards one's parents, despite of uh, despite of the abandonment, and one can think that the life that was given to me was because of my parents, and because of which I was able to achieve everything which is currently precious to me. Every study, every learning which I have accumulated in the current time is because of the graciousness of this life that I was offered. And by through this, one can practice the emotion arising of emotion of respect and reverence to one's parents.
근데 내 보면은 그거 지금 알아 교상 가도 사이 저라 가셔라 달로 저소야 전부 저때 파마도나 경고되나네 경고데 삼로저라 완전 내신 따다대고 말았어. 일로 전부 하고 삼로데 소소 간로 전부들 쏘고다. 근데 영화 가서 딱 보던 가지 냈다 쏘고다. 근데 능중다 통중다 들어서 많이 내쳐요 말았어. 아저는 다든다 파마저라 다 파마되게 가져게다. 디 최도나 시험에 된다 디 고물로 좀 나가 좀 되게 거 하세요. 겨울라. 겨울 되셔서 뭐 저는 파마라 그게 저바이나 소소가 아니 세텔라는 연락 잡도 그랬어. 최도나 시험 제 침마들라 줄 아네. 타파다 대 투릴 하다 미 컴바터벨 되게 아니 계산요레스 어디 냈었다.
So, so one may even ask, what's the benefit of practicing this particular practice of respecting one's parents? And as we move forward in our life, we see that people they get old, and our parents currently, many of them may be in their life where they're old. So old people, as we know, they have they have a more expressive manner when it comes to their emotions. And therefore, if they do so, if they become more expressive with their emotions, being easily agitated and things like this, one should understand that these are the parents, these are the things that they cannot control at that time. And some children at that time, because the parents becomes more agitated, parents becomes more angry more of the time, they become more expressive with their feelings. They feel annoyed and frustrated with their parents. And then sometimes there are cases where they abandon their parents at old age. So one should be compassionate, even more compassionate at that time, and accept their parents in that way, that particular way. So Nagarjuna, in this particular text, which is the letter to a friend, he says to the king Gautamiputra, he says, if you revere your parents, then as as the product or the result of this practice, you will achieve great fortune and fame in this lifetime. Not only this, in your next lifetime, you will have a higher rebirth, maybe a higher rebirth in as a human or in a god realm. So therefore, Nagarjuna states in his text that the very result of revering or respecting one's parents is in this lifetime, you will attain great fame and fortune. In next lifetime, you will attain a higher rebirth.
그래서 먼저 지단계 소설이나다 개변들의 최도는 신의 개변들도 최도는 매시와는 남주 남샤 준동 먼저겠다 소설이 딱 경고도를 야고 잡아나 소설에 님의 경고책을 소설 단단한 딱봐 메딱 봐라 메딱 완전히 죽어줘야 되고라 딱봐 다 되면 경고책을 가서나 야고 셔도 쉬어나 소설 경고책을 란신걸 되게 소남 되게 내 왕게 소설 경고책은 셔비 중에 라는 거 란신 그래서 안에 단다게 소설을 내던데 다가랑 딱 봤더니 되게 말아 죽었고 그랬어 됐었나 직샤 에 소설 파야 보자면 종망 안에 된데 챙겨라 된데게 삼로다나 디고스 가서는 된데 연결했다 내 준했을 때 로버요 말았어 소설에서 내가 뽑아 시도시도 소설 경고책도 전에 그런 어떤 랑싱고랑 그때 연결했다 근데 개선이었어 가서는 퍼마스에 대해 소설 신 개발되는데 되게 순남 대신 받는 멘다가 납치 못 쉬었어
So during the time when your parents are old, if you serve them well, during the time of their old age, it will bear great fruit in this very lifetime, because one should never forget the very nature of compound phenomena, that is impermanent. So one should know that oneself, you yourself will one day become as old as your parents. There will come a time when you yourself will become old. And if you serve your parents at this time with great reverence, with great respect, with great compassion, when you yourself become old, you will have others who will serve you accordingly. It is because of the great virtue that is the object of reverence as a parents being an object of reverence with such great virtue, that if you revere them wholeheartedly revere them with great compassion, then by the power of this merit, you yourself in the end of your life will receive the same treatment with great love and great compassion by someone who will serve you when you will become as old as they are.
되지. 다들 담보대 안에 범할 그 봐지. 니바데 니네를 배웠다. 니네 배워되나 내 주바다 주지들에도 주바다 주지니 니네를 배웠을 때. 다디 비나로나 세다 중군 티베 준다네. 장다 뒤미셀라 잡아다. 매대 토다 가다 루다다. 가단 때문에 개원난 방식에서. 나좀 줄인 제서 제발 일할 보다 당되는. 소중 되지. 혈류 이용과 기바 변매다. 저발 지스.
So now that is the practice of respect for one's parents. Now the second one is to observe continence of special days. And so Nagarjuna states, forsake harming, theft, and robbery, sexual misconduct, lying, alcohol, attachment to food at improper times, enjoyment of high seats and beds, and all kinds of songs, dances, and garlands. If you possess these 8 features, which follows an arahat's morality, then you abide in restoration and purification, and you will bestow on men and women the pleasant form of the gods of the desire realm.
다데 니네가 돈바질래. 니네가 돈바세. 다 김바이나 아니 고랑 telapaba 돈발래. 다 잡아든데 나다게 놓다 기초다 게놓는 소보다 돈바 마무셔라. 다 김바이 때라야 이나 소소겠다. 아니 저저 잡아지 배나 다바다발 렌트바이나 다바기데 가서 제가 정하잖아다 풀문나라 다바 약하고 데려다보다 근데 가서야 때 소소를 만나 개발해봤어 다들 개발해봤어 되잖아 다들 소소니 니샤 투지게 니네가 돈 봤어 니마 직수도 뉴잡시 근데가 돈 봤을 때 시고 김발을 봐
So So these are the 8 percept, a practice that is done throughout a day. And it is said that if one would observe this particular practice of taking these 8 percepts on auspicious days, for example, the 10th of a month, the 15th day, which is the full moon day of a month, it could bring an immeasurable amount of merits.
근데 이제 다들 니네 일할 제서라 일할 제대 가서나 어떤 몰라 아니 저거 소주라 소주 맞지 아니 매진 벌레 맞지 특별 매장 줘 맞지 주의 봐 아니 장난을 보통 아니 투미 세서 봤어 아니 매대 토보 토보 매대 채도세 매대 대세줘라 대세대 토보는 매대 아니 루가다 루다 카로 청와서 보통 되게 매지 근데 제지 아니 니샤 투지라 냠내 제줘라 어디 아니 지단 얘네 근데 지금 맞아 갖다 미루고 그냥 돈발내 되는 소소게 야 라마도 근데 지금 되네 아니 마트린 쇼방 가보다 라 근데 되는 님 드리는 나 같이 네 지금 메스다 소책 메스 아니 구마책 메스 미장어책 메스 준시책 메스 차라동 메스 아니 구자는 칼라스 메스 아니 대사 도와간 때 메스 네 창다 루다 카라사더라 루카르다 루스는 단 루카르스는 대시 타베야 되다 아니 제 청와져라 괜찮던데 어디를 딱 메스 어디 제대네 주도 뉴스 필요나 쇼방가 원해서 매직 캐네저부터 캐네제네 숨바이나 소소는 납치 버서다데.
So the 8 percept of this practice is first forsaking of harming or killing. Second, forsaking of theft and robbery. Third, forsaking of sexual misconduct. Forsaking of lying. Forsaking of the consuming of alcohol. Forsaking of consuming of food at improper times, which in this particular context means to not eat after the noon. So to only consume food before the noon time, and then to forsake dwelling on high seats and beds, to forsake all kinds of enjoyment or entertainment of all kinds of songs, dances, and wearing of garlands and ornaments. So if one takes these 8 percepts, and practice it for 24 hours, this is known as to observe the continence and to uptake the vows of the 8 percepts.
디 아니 팀바게 또 봤지 또 봤네 나디 지단 게 팀바 수련한 나한테 버렸어 딜라데 디엄버스 딜렌초거래 딜렌초메스 세게디 예바트케 요마스 팀바 수련도에나 소소디 아니 저제 잡아제 가서 딜렌네 냠내 잡아야나 소소가는 손나 박도 넣었어요 그래서 저거데 님에 딱 봤을 때마다 다같이 칙스 치에도 그냥 세상 되서가 어딘데 치도네 어딘데 치도에나 내 소소소 남랍시 못서 그래 얘네 그냥 냠내치에 열었어 가서나 건물로게 저거도 저서 몰라 저거도 저서 못해 팀바 인자는 저번에 이제 다또 맞다는 내요 말아 팀비드 전에 다 저런 팀바 있나야 팀베 때나 저런 또 봐요래 또 봤어요 또 봤네요 그래서 님 맞직다 님 이걸 님 딱 말하면 님 찍 저런 또 발레나 되고 그랬을 때 저런 다다 채토 그랬어 어디에 손도 막 걸려 줘. 네, 나가죠. 네, 가서. 저부터 저서 한번 송으로. 니네 지랑은 남자는 배전하는 방법이 있다디. 니네 돈 봤어. 니네 잡았어. 어디 있어?
So this particular eight percepts is a percept that can be taken by any layperson. So this is a practice which pertains specially to the layperson, since Nagarjuna understands that the king Gautamiputra is a layperson, and so he cannot take the vows and the vows of either the ordained monk or and so since he cannot take these vows and he cannot be ordained, so the way to practice and way to sort of the way to restrict his actions is by taking the 8 percept. And it is said that by the practice, by observing these 8 percept for a duration of 24 hours, there is great attainment of merits, immeasurable attainment of merits, and one can attain a great deal of merits by practicing this. And so therefore, Nagarjuna provides this particular practice to the king Gautamiputra with the understanding that he's a layperson and as a method to accumulate great merits.
다다 니버들라 네 니네 저다 다 숨바디 니모라 트라타 니모 트라타 와스 니모라 트라타 와스도 네 센나 유주 차다 님레다스 문뱅가제 되자시단다 리당 소다 토바랑조 당스 왕당 집에 잡아 다신 6 중니들이다
So now the third one is to remove faults of mind. So now Nagarjuna states, look upon these as enemies, miserliness, cunning, deceit, attachment, laziness, manifest pride, sexual attachment, hatred, and arrogance of caste, form, learning, youth, and the pride of great power.
다선다 네가서 뉴몬을 단하지 따고래서 지도 사실 단계 남정한데 다스나 가르치 그래지를 다스 그랬어 다스나 가르스 된다 가르스 그래지를 다스 그랬어 저런데 섬주들이 나서
So Geshe is asking to every one of you, he's asking, whenever we think of someone, think of the concept of enemies, whom do you think is the enemy? What kind of perception do you have of the concept of enemy? So Geshe is asking, what do you think when you think about enemy?
Geshe, do you want us to respond?
yes.
When I think of enemy, it's someone who or something that will harm me. Like anything that's just harmful.
코랑기 가송스나 nga 저기 되게 nga 저라 뇌체 체니지 연바이나 띵nga 저기 자wo 셰바디기 코아레스
근데 따라래 다 남정한 저기 지다 용다겠다 다스나 수선도 받지 되는 거라서 그러 될 다스르라 다 단대 가서 이제 나나 가르치고서는 뉴몬을 땄다고 그래서 또 뉴몬이 된 것은 네 그래서 또 뉴몬을 땄나시 따고서는 소소는 넘게 되다 뉴몬들에서 딱 가서 그 냠내로 정도 되는 뭐 보나나 다 뉴몬 나가 독소다 다 뉴몬 엄마도 나가 독소 저는 치료를 가서 다스나 배가 넘어지 않게 다스나 이제 다 엄마 저런 넘게 돼 나가 독소 나가 소리서 나가 뉴몬들에서 다들 나 이제 막 그렇게 돼
tanda kechla tanda mi khashe ki le tangswa
당선할래
chat na now tip ti chi ki khasons na tip ti la ki khasons na ngaran so so nga jo tare so ani ti che la nga ki ti chi to ki nadar la la sto khorang ki khasons na nga chol ne che chi ni de nga jo tare so do ani pamela la sto khorang ki khasons la na nga cho sem de nga jo tare sha sam to so do ro an tamadela chimila la khorangi khasundela na ngarang chu gyule yebe nga cheki longyen ba nyumo be lo ta la so paten zo nga cheki tares la songsha
네. 자상모대 상모를 먼저 그대로 자상모. 다디 먼저게 쌤된 것들 달에서는요. 갑돌 납되는 다다 식 쌤나는 여봤어요. 저라 쌤 야가도 두고 왔어요. 먼저라는 게 다스 저 베자는 셰셰라니라는 게 다이. 대니다가 그 대니다가 다냐 있어. 대요 그대로 자소서 다스나. 그래서 야보 맞아봐이나 소소 다쳐 그랬어. 저 야보 차와는 소소 그런 차 그랬어. 내가 로정나로 송여라. 다인도 단대값은 자고 봤으나 남자 주는 것도 시에 다스와데 핸드바친 게 다스고라. 다스네 딱 누바친 것마다 딱 뉴모 그래서 뉴모나 따따따 그래서 되나 사제고라. 되네스.
So most of the answers that was given, Geshe said that all of the answers were very relevant in each perspective. The concept that one is an enemy of oneself is something that has been stated by Buddha in the sutra. But this should be understood in a way that one becomes one's enemy only when one is influenced by the afflicted mind or the negative mind. It is then when one becomes one's enemy. So the more general understanding of an enemy is something or someone that brings great harm to oneself. And so here, when we talk about enemy, we should look at not just ourselves. We should focus our understanding more towards the afflictions and the negative thought that arises in ourselves.
단지 전에 다 유목에 가서는 여기서 다 그랬어 그래서 다 유목 전도 아니 마트에 방진 다 담보들라 유목 스티르도 세나세트 세나게 안에 컨테스 그랬어 세나 가서는 여기요나 세나 가서 다이나 세나 컨테스 그랬어 답변식에는 세나세가 돼서 저기 잘나다 가래나 제나 주나 땅마도 딱 담보심 된 섬로 줘라 딜라 세나세가 다들 컨테스 여기서는 다 기대는 거랑 권유를 그 막 자가 이때 본배도 돼서 스바치를 되는다 안데리스 정도 다 다녀도 삼바지와 뭐나 저랬을 때 론데 딱봐 론데 다때 몰라도 통화가서 안에 뺐대 녀디다 상방원에 동의 뭐 보셔줘라 되나 이제 세트 동의를 뭐 보셔줘라 알았어 저번에 되는데도 뭐 먹게 되랬지 다때 생각을 뺐잖아 라바상 많이 할 때는 니매지가 안에 가라야 보셔 사야라고 말해 니매지가 봤을 때 오셨는데 대라고 말 니매 카드라고는 봤어 티백이 냐르된 땅 배주 땅에 배주했는데 데 섬을 걸어요 말 가서 생각이 지금 타마들한테 소소 통로들한테 미션 받고 돌아 소소는 되게 가서나다 생각 관계는 소소게 롱제도 말 여가대 그래서 데이터부터 찾아보는 당은 총대부터 저라 데이터는 이제 담만 모였어 생각에 대해 니가서 니믹
So, so how does so when we say that our negative afflictions and the afflicted minds are our enemies, so how does these negative afflictions harm us? So, for example, the first one, which is the miserliness, how does this particular thought or the mind harm us? So, there's so Geshe said that at a bridge which is very near to where he lives, there used to be so it's a report that came into the newspaper. He said that there was a old woman who was always sitting on the bridge near where Geshe currently is, and when the old woman passed away, it was found that she possessed a great amount of gold and money. So during the time when she was alive, she was unable to use that to either eat a proper meal, to live at a proper place. She was always collecting and saving until the point that she wasn't able to even consume, or she wasn't able to use even a single penny of it for herself properly. And now it has become a property of someone else. And so because of this mind of miserliness, even though one may acquire a great wealth, one is unable to use it in order to provide facility for oneself.
나 세상 다 되는 중에다 뭐 보지 저런 저 통이 줘야 되네 생각하나 전에 생각하나 그때 거라시야 군조래 필면에 소소에 삼아에 근데 그 로마 같은 데에 땅만 매는데 그때에는 수저 메제세처럼 메제데 그때 가라가라 지금 하고 말아 다 근데 메제데 디 딱받으면 매봤습니다 메타고인 봤습니다 죽었다 죽어라 다 됐습니다 유튜브 가서 안에 가라여가 됐어서 이나 소보다 바베게 약보사고에 나서 세 갈라트도에 약보사고에 다음에 제가 소소 같은 주변 컨트롤 주법에 나래 내 손에 좀 봤다 하는데 너 쉬어도나 저 데레 제도 봐야냐 네 소소소나 랍좀 봤어 매장원에 끼고 네 늘라 나타용으로 쏘봤다 가래나 용거리 다때도 마용과 관계돼 안에 선나인 봤었다 선나가 소소라 내렸다 네 봤어 그랬어
It is, as we all know, that the very life that we live is impermanent, and then the end of it is also uncertain. So when we accumulate a great amount of wealth and we do not use it, for example, when we do not use it to provide a proper meal for ourselves, a proper accommodation of ourselves, and then for greater use, when we are not using it for things like offerings to the monasteries, and to offer it for the religious reasons, or to someone that is in need of it. What we do is that we accumulate it, and it becomes a sort of wealth that is not a wealth that is useful for anyone. And then that practice by which you could use it to either provide yourself with a proper meal, a proper accommodation. You could use it to make great offerings for the practice of religious practice. You can offer it to someone that may have need of it. You will accumulate a great degree, a great amount of merits because of that practice. But because of your mind, that is the mind of the miserliness, it obstructs you from doing all of these things. And this is how that particular negative mind is harming you.
다들 니와들한테도 선하셔니 유주세트 요세들도 다 요세나 가더랑 랑게 니와데 저저게 나녀를 써고 니와데 가르사야나데 네 파시라 먹은 바체 저라 신라 먹은 바체 까비에 소소 논르디마 신하 먹어야지도 막 깝된 게 저라 딜라니 요슬로다 요스나 소소 논르데 니와 가르나데 밥 먹어야지도 배도고라 뒷깝대 신 논르잖냐 되는데 저라 딜라 소소 논르 바깝된 게 삼로데나는 요스다.
Now, the second one is, as we see here, is deceit, is to hide one's own fault and one's own sort of negative intentions. And so by doing this, what they do is that they fool other peoples. They tend to mask their own reality, to show themselves in a more positive light by hiding their faults, the negative mind, their wrongdoings. And this type of mind in which you cover or hide your own negative sort of mind and negative faults is called deceit, to deceive someone.
저다 메가시아다 유주세트 개워시고다 시고여서자 유주제 요세드네체 니 유주세 요드네 요드네체 시랑은 여바 먹은바데 요바데 바까베체 줄라데 랑라인데메나 요 삼베페 시고 된데저라 드드니 메가시아를 베데 딘데체를 시고 개워여스 다 딘데 제베나다 데 미고 고던 것도 도시나 소소 메나 예 단다체체 소소 녀바데나 바깝 밀레 녀바체냐 쪽데 소소데 바깝세 밀레냐 쪽데다 그 되면도 베게 되면도 파타냐 나 소소게 녀바요 주네 맞다워세 소소 녀바데 바 요나다 데 메르던도 제베 좀 대신배도는 바깝되지 어디 안에 나는 안에 가서나 데딘데 제대바이나 칼레 소소 미기 예제 라트로스 소소가 타보시나 그 예측 말미 그 딱바데 제대고라 어다 그 라이타야 말스 시즌에 소소 타보시나 강아지가 가서 로바처럼은 저는 다들 좀 말이 야제 말미 그래서 나서 내었다 소소게 다쳐다데.
So the Tibetan word for deceit is yo. So the first part, yo, it means to cover one's fault, to cover the negative part of yourself, to mask it, to show it as to hide it from other people. And the second part is gyu, which means to present oneself as someone who is who presents oneself as possessing a knowledge that one doesn't have, to boast about the things that they do not have. So this is the meaning of the word gyu. So when we bring these two words together, yogyu, it means to deceive someone, to fool someone in thinking of yourself as someone that you are not. And then by doing this, what happens is that you may get away with this one time, two times, but then eventually people will catch up to the deceitment. And then once they do that, they will never believe anything that you say. Fourth, from this, they will never believe even a single word that you say. And even in the time of urgency, when you are actually speaking the truth, they will say, there is no reason to listen to that person. This person is a deceitful person. He never tells the truth. There's no reason to believe. And then because of this, even if you are in need of help, in a great urgency for the need of help, people will not believe you. And so this is how deceiving or how deceit harm you. The mind of deceit will harm you.
유주지. 니가 숨버들아 네 데려다 착봤었지. 다 착봤어 왔대 당한 적에 유머 독숨난 게 예제치. 다 대형 배때거나 다 다임변은 다 쳐보시고 그랬다디. 유머는 대는 다 쳐보시고. 다 숨을 다 쪼고 숨을 당한 적에. 네, 쌤 그냥 다 쪼고 숨난에 다 대직 차고 그랬어.
So the third one is the attachment. So this is so attachment is one of the three poisons, one of the three afflicted mind and the three poisons, and it is one of the most harmful mind. There is the mind of the attachment. So therefore, it is one of the three it is one of the three poisons, and it harms greatly.
나되게 아니 착봤어야 되자서야 되나 되자라 다거나 아니 중국어를 착봐 되자 요래스 아니 수수 명을 착봐 되자 가셔야는 주변 저들에다 되는 거를 맞아보지 아니 심백이다 뭐 유 아니 뭐를 써봐다냐는 밀을 써봐다냐 맞아봐서 그냥 뱉더라 명을 찾는 게 어디네 요래스 앞에서는 당한 저 되자게 아니 당한 같이 그랬어 누구라 되자게 아니 가도 다이나 그런 얘기예요. 되자 그런 얘기도 없어. 잠깐 되자 옆에 잡아당기는 배제전에 잘라지를 쳤는데 배제전에 수tum나 삼수 뚝수 삼상의 예측만 좀 그랬어. 대단해 맨다스. 되자도 매번에 야장 말았어. 되자도 다른 맨도 삼상 되레 삼는 코스. 그래서 되자 되게 그도 다나야 되자로서 뭐 녀모 막 하셔야 돼. 그도 땅도 되나야. 따주들라 따주되나야 띠스 소설라. 펜토 땡게 또 봐지. 14번 사번 또 되면 근데 풍는 뇌 되고. 어디내게 녀모를 같이 되는데 제대로 녀모.
So when we talk about attachments, there is attachment to people, attachment to objects and materialistic things. And then other than that, there are attachments to things like fame, authority, power. And so one may ask oneself, what is the harm that these attachments have? One might think that if I don't have these attachment, if I don't have these desires of wanting to achieve this, then how may I even achieve these things? Isn't attachment a good thing? Because I desire to achieve this, I can actually make it. I could actually make it happen. So many of these afflicted minds, on a surface level, they may feel like something that aids you into something, that helps you into some way. But in reality, when we scrutinize, when we think about these things, when we analyze these mind in a more profound and deeper, not profound, much in a much more deeper meaning, we come to understand that these are the things which only creates a great deal of suffering for us, and in no way are these mind that are there to aid us in any way.
뇌작에 배나 작은데 소리스나 다 뺏어잖아. 짐상 들었나다. 나다 때문에 뒤져 사단을 열다. 낭미 참 보시오. 낭미 참 보시오. 아니 맞지 내줄란. 낭미게 아니 파말로 소바게 주노이 나래 낭게 아니 잘라라 소바 간데 나질라. 아니 데이터라. 맞아 매고. 뺏도거나 속바션. 삼산은 세리도 그때 연구 없다. 낭미 빈자이나 세리도 그 열에 파마게 보고 세사도 보게 안에 파마세르세 내도 되는 거 같다면 가르쳐 잘라는 맞아 뭐 주노 펜션을 된들 농주를 잡고 관계 내도 되는 거 다 남매도 잡고 있는 남매도 안에 딜레 맞아 관계 빈자이나 다샤된 게 근데 파마도 보고 있는 다샤된 게 대체 배 망보거든데. 먼저 다 지도 딜라요 말 딜라요 셀라요 차상나요. 최종적 말. 지도 가사가는 시전 저 예봐서요 말. 상관한데 요때. 다 영사대 그래고 세제바이나 주노를 잡고 잡바대 관계. 려마도 잡바대. 딘내죠. 딘내전 밀레 잡고 관계네. 잘해준. 소쟁이. 야 저번이 참보시고는 야데 잡고 관계야. 괜찮냐? 배트거는 베스트 프렌드 저거 약셔이나요. 담아드느냐? 디레 괜찮냐? 번에 부참분이나 보면 직던도 양 저셔네. 담아대 저거 심션이 맞아 다시 한 거예요. 되나지 본물래요. 이 가서는 중산도 가서 중산도 짜제버이나 나로를 따라고. 그래서 나는 작방 관계인데 내가 내가 좀 모르겠어. 근데 요랬어. 다시하던데.
So when we think about attachment being one's enemy, so how should one go about and think about it? Is that, for example, let's think about a family, a very harmonious family, a very peaceful, harmonious family. But then sometimes what happens is that because of the attachment towards, let's say, fortune or wealth that the family possess, there are a great deal of fighting that may happen in between the families. Siblings kill each other for the sake of fortune and wealth. There are children who kill their parents for money. And so therefore we see that because of this particular attachment towards the materialistic fortune, the wealth, there brings a great deal of fighting, arguments, and in some cases, there are also cases where people kill each other. And it's not something we may say like, oh, this is just in this particular community. It doesn't exist in other community. No, it's not that case. It is that it exists in every community. But the difference is the frequency, the number of cases that may happen in each community. Other than that, it happens in every community all over the world. And then let's say there is the attachment towards a person. Let's say there are two friends, two friends who consider each other as best friends. But then because of an attachment towards let's say a single girl or a woman, they resort to violence, they resort to fighting, and in some cases they resort to killing each other. And so you see that very harmony that existed in a family or between two friends was destroyed by this emotion. And therefore, this is how attachment becomes our enemy.
뭔데서는 나한테 되자서데 때 이미 되자 님이 해오전 다 먹어요. 다 정말 시도는 저 가보라. 네 be자 맞아요. 것도 되자라서 되네지 다 님이 되네 네 시당래도 다때 뇽내스도 근데 뇽내스도 뭐 뇽내스도 아니 뇽내스에 가서는 다 되자 주는 뇽내스들어 뇽내스 어디니 개발주발한 또 나면 개발치고 삼는 체면 제에게 대토난 주는 말레베 땡이 삼으죠라 근데 뇽내스 개발주발한 밭 개발카리나 지금 야같이 치고 삼는 제 친이 만들베겠어 어디를 뱉거나 소소가 토난 주는 말레베죠라 되게 안에서 삼는데 뇽내스
So then after the attachment is laziness. So laziness is the mind of lethargy, a mind that does not take joyfulness in doing virtuous deed, a mind that is not able to feel joyful and happy in accomplishing joyful deed, and thus a mind that obstructs us from doing any virtuous deed. And so when it comes to attachment and the cons or the sort of negative effect of attachments, there are so many negative effects of attachment. And if we discuss about them thoroughly in this class, we may not be able to go through with the lesson or the text. And so therefore, Geshe said that the few that he have mentioned would be ample to understand the negative effects of attachment. And so now the mind of laziness is the mind of lethargy, a mind of now a mind that makes you unable to feel a sort of joyfulness towards accomplishing virtuous deed.
되지 아니 네 이거 네 정말대로 데려도 맞을래 ngajesene ta sozula de ngombe ngajesere 지금 매발에 예르섬 sozula 다 들에 이제 된게 ngajesene 지나 예와만 오체르잖아 sozula 직바 도이나 디레티 이제 야가이 돈도 삼삼 미디 sozula 거로 제와요나 아니 디스카스나 나시라 제와 메토도세 삼로 네 소소 거로 마와요나 마와메 직바 도인 삼삼 근데 그 ngajeje 더 소소 ngoyne 가린 바데라 삼로 코르도고 못하디 ngaje티 간 ngoyne 가린 바데 캐네시에 되어요 뭐 저지단전 ngoyne 가린 바 캐네시에 되어나 약쇼죠 요도 주는 메 소소를 껴요나 ngoyne 여바이나 캐네다 가 껴요 뭐 삼보다다 껴라 저도 너도 이번 너도 캐네나 약쇼네 너도 캐말랑 제벳 지금 너도에나 메토도신 박 소소게 장만이 돈도 제조라 다디 아니 강한 망고쇼 소소 강한 때 맞아야네 니 전부들 에너지도 그러나 강한 때 다디 아니 강한 챗 전부 되고 다디 디텐션
So now, the next is the manifest pride. So manifest pride is a sort of pride which arises in oneself, and by this, one feels or one have the sense of arrogance of having a sort of achievement or knowledge that one does not have. And so in this way, one deludes oneself into thinking that they know more than what they know. They are more than what they actually are. And then in this way, they are, in a way, what they do is that they overlook their own faults and shortcomings. So in our life, we face many different situations and we have many different shortcomings. And to accept these shortcomings and saying that I don't know this, I have these shortcomings, is the easiest and the most simple way to avoid this type of pride and to have a sense of peace. It is because of an inability to accept, because of that manifest pride within us, which is making us unable to accept this fact. So in some cases, when someone is quite at the same level of us, we may think that, oh, I'm a little better than them. I'm a bit better than them. And then in cases where someone is better than us, we feel like, oh, I'm not that far away from him. I'm quite close to him. He's not that much better than me. And then when we look at someone who is much more lower than us, we may feel like, oh, I'm so much better than them. So because of this manifest pride, we're unable to see the reality. It obscures our vision of seeing the reality. And because of this, we have this sense of manifest pride, which leads to many different problems. And the problem it leads to is because the unaccountability of our actions. We may make some mistakes, and if we say, oh, I'm very sorry, I've made this mistakes, this is the simplest way to deal with that problem. But then because of our manifest pride, we have the sense we are being unaccounted for of the consequences, and then we try to deny that we have made any mistakes. And in the small scale, it brings great disharmony in one's family and people near and dear to them. And in a larger scale, it is something that could also bring great harm to a bigger society and a community.
디제니 ngajeje 되네 오늘 특별히 쓰고라도 저자들 이도도 지간데 지차에 균을 lonjula 잡아제 근데 되니 특별히 쓰고 저자 다 데이터 진시원은 이제 부터 보면 되네 저저 디젠전에 봐 토고이나 봐면 봐차이 다차이 어디에 되네 잠어서서 봐도 소제라서 디젠전에 소시원이나 근데 팀도로 돈을 받대 종안하는 시원 연구해 줘라 동안 어떤 연구에 총사되다 투사대 진로되는 중앙 맞다 다나 진로는 이거 들어줘 베게타르 그쳐서 베게쳐서 대치해서 파조적으로 뭐마 데이터 총사대 저거대 중공대 나눠는 쳐 어딘데서는 강한 중공 전부 적다든.
So then is the sexual attachment. So we have talked about attachment before, but this is a different type of attachment. It's the attachment for the it's an attachment towards the between a male and female or any two person. So because of this attachment, like Geshe already gave an example where two good friends can, because of this particular attachment, can resort to violence, can resort to argument, can resort to killing each other. And then many a times what happens is that we feel that this attachment is because of something that's external. We blame the externality. We blame something that's external. Like we say, like, oh, I am having this sexual attachment because of that person's appearance. But in reality, we must understand that this particular attachment, the root of this particular attachment, comes from within, the way we perceive things. And because of our perception, these sort of attachment comes with the factor of the externality and not without it. So therefore, it must understand that sexual attachment in root comes from within ourselves.
이제 내가 데려다 시당셋 시당렛 다 시당셋에 다데 잡자 뭐 쉬고 다데 아니 그네 그때는 답변에 너봐 지금 현라네 너께고 삼성에 들어다 시당 뭐 달라 그네 나선배 시당라다 다데는 그네 나선 봐도 답변에 데 콘도에 갑도 콘도에 섭세 시당세 왔다 데 배줄라 다타 소가 삼성 삼노줘라 다데베 어디 네 시당데 틱바면서 더 콘도데 군이 더 얻어 되더라 네 시당세 대 안에 접점 붙이고 다 시당게 숙저 보죠 나네디 소소게 semmatio masana sopo de 지금 시당데 접점에 맞서서 소포데 맞대봐 칼라나 사님으로서 콘도 다시 당도 숙점 붙이고 가서 무딘데스네 뭐서 가지고 냠 소소라는 용어대가 아니 냠용사 대바이나 딘데도 요르스 시당세
And then the hatred being one of the most severe and one of the most powerful enemies out of this. So the mind of hatred, in many cases, it's worse than anger. So it's a mind, it's a mind that tells us that a mind that looks upon someone and then wants to harm them, wants to make sure that they have taken care of other person, like in harming them. So the mind of hatred, as we look through it, it is also said that hatred is there is no other greater sin as equal to hatred. And it is because of this mind, that very mind, which looks towards someone in such disgust that they want to do the greatest level of harm to themselves. And not only the hatred here is an enemy, not only because one does harm to others, it also harms oneself, because when someone has a great hatred towards others, there may be cases where they feel sick, their body may not feel well, they feel angry all the time, they may not be able to eat well, they may not be able to sleep well because of that hatred towards someone else. And this is how hatred is an enemy and harms us.
다데네 아니 작바세들아 담아들 작바세와네 릭단 숙단 네 tö바다 랑조 왕단소로 되더라네 셈 착바왕 셈큰 행와네 삼나줘라 되라 작바서 다같이 릭도 보시면서 같이 숙약 보시면서 같이 어딘데 랑조 쇼 여도는 왕단쇼 여도는 저때 되라 작바왕 신라 바쇼 여도는 제대줘라 디 삼로되라네 작바서.
And finally, the arrogance. So here, when we talk about arrogance, there is the arrogance of the caste, someone thinking that I'm from a higher caste, I'm from a noble caste. Because of that particular reason, having great pride. Second, because of their physical features, some may think that I have a very beautiful face, I have a very beautiful body. Because of this, having arrogance. Sometimes because of the learning, the studies that they have done, because of which one may think that, oh, I have studied so much, I know so much more than others. And then sometimes thinking that because I'm youth, I'm still young. And then also because of the arrogance and pride, because of the authority and the power that they have, saying that, oh, I have such great authority, I can do anything. And so because of this, there is a rising of arrogance. And so this is the final enemy, which is the arrogance.
왕단다 디디요나 다라 쉬고 여전히 배시아 통도 다양 삼을 hiện là thông chung tăng ấy na rằng chính phải cho được xem mấy chiếc chào na số số chưa toàn là chào na số số tiếp bắt sao na tiếp bắt cái đầu bút này đúng rồi số cái bắt sao na cái bắt đầu tiếp bắt là cho nên tiếp bắt sao na rằng chính số số đúng rồi cái chia cái ta chủ rồi chuyên sao đúng là nhưng mà cái đúng rồi chia đúng rồi chia được nên ta số số là đúng rồi thì số số mấy chiếc số mấy chiếc số là số số anh ta chào ta ta thì số số nó bắt nên mấy chiếc chào ta chào.
So, because of the arrogance of power, one may misuse this power, thinking that, oh, I'm all great and powerful, and then they may look down upon someone, and then abuse that authority to oppress them. And then the people who are oppressed and feel looked down, they feel sad. Because of this, you accumulate non-virtuous karma. And because of that non-virtuous karma, it bears, as it is said, that the cause of suffering is the non-virtuous deed, and the cause of happiness is the virtuous deed. Because you accumulate a great number of non-virtuous deed, what happens is that it brings forth a great deal of suffering. And because of the pride or the sort of arrogance, it led to you doing a non-virtuous deed, which led to a rising of suffering. And in this way, the arrogance becomes an enemy.
Acha tanga ta ngoma de nana yo res ta ngoma nana to res ta so na ane ta ngoma nana yo bang mute chen ta chilo ge ta ta ba chen dem jang da she de ta res na de ta ka lo te se zam che res te zui gen chung chung ji wang ge ane ta ta ba ji sam da ta re ga so ta res ko ya wo xiao ji chen ju la ne du chung chung de gen ja ta cha res ro te ne gap zam ya ni ma ji to ko sim ba de no ru sa na ru sha de gong sa gong da la na nāma nāshirāng chā chā rō. Tā tā nyōmō mō sē tē lā kāchā pā tē tē chāmbō kāchā chā bā yinā. Kō pēnā dō chā rō chak bā chak tē nā chā lā chak bā yinā khārā chā bā chak bā chak lā shuk chāmbō tē wā nā kō yā pēnī tō tō rō mā tō nīmā chē kō yā kō chā nā sō tō lā anē pēn tō yōng kō mā sō. Tā mē tē yinā tē sē nē kāp chā tā chā rē nā nīmā chē yā tē nyē chā sē bā rē sē. Kāchā nā sē tō yō tā tē sē mē rē nyē chā rē sē yō rē sē. Sē mē kē tā tē sē mē kē nyē tē sē tō yō lā tā chā sē. Tā tē pē tē kō nā tē 딱 봐이 봤었다. 그 주어도 저랬어. 자, 유머가 때 다데 니마치가 남양 안에 대차가 말했어. 근데 년차에게 대요 말했어. 네, 고압요 말했어.
So the enemies, the enemies as we think about in our day-to-day life, the people, these are temporary enemies. These are enemies that will not last long, meaning that it is said, there is a saying that says that the friend in the enemy in the earlier part of life can become the friend in the later part of life. And similarly, a friend in the earlier part of life could become the enemy in the later part of life. It is the very nature of impermanence that changes the people and their mindset. So consider you have a friend who have become your enemy, and then if you just make up with them, you say, sorry, I have made this mistake, please forgive me, then you can become friends again. So these are enemies to which if one particular day, if you actually do something good to them, you can make them into your friend. But when it comes to the negative affliction and these particularly faults of minds, such as attachment and hatred, the more you tend to them, the more you try to become closer to them, they will grow stronger and stronger and put you into a great deal of misery, a greater misery as you become closer to them. There is never a moment in your life where you try to tend to them in a way that where you try to bring them closer to yourself, that they are going to think they're going to change themselves, and then at a certain point they start giving you happiness. This is not possible. And so therefore, enemies such as the attachment and the hatred are such that it doesn't matter how much well you tend to them, they're always going to remain enemies and never become your friend. Unlike the temporary enemy that we visualize as people, which can change from time and with your actions.
당한테 매대 나는 공개 달했어야 돼. 쌈도 나지 그랬어. 쌈로. 그 달했어. 쌈로 세워 맞아. 되는 거 말라. 또 니마지 그 저거 잖아. 저거 했어. 매대 다 하라네. 쌈로 단단하게 정말 쌤라 라라요 그랬어. 저당 쌈로 단단한 준유지 그 남산 다차. 쌈로 단단 준유지 그 니에 차들. 뭐 내줘야 되나 용사요. 왜내 저도 까보이나 까보라. 나보이나 나보라. 저도 매 삼래 왕게. 삼은 단단 왕게. 뺏대고라. 죽도 다쳐 그냥 니 저야. 다쳐. 다 들에 욕 말하고만. 그래서 삼래 소리를 정말. 쌤목 소리를 정말.
So, unlike the afflictions, the human enemies are the things that are the ones that we have designated with our own mind. It is our way of perceiving them that have turned them into enemies or our friend. And the moment when we think more positive about them, they become friend. The moment when we think more negative about them, they become enemy. And this is the great delusion of our mind that changes, that manifests the delusion. But then these mind, which is the mind of fault, which is the attachment and hatred and deceit, these are these are the enemy in a sense that it's not just simply because of our perceiving of them, it's actually the things which bring us great misery in the actuality. So therefore, this is very different from the temporary enemy. It is an enemy that, despite of our actions, will only bring us suffering.
이제 다들 시바데 들었다다. 네, 방이었어. 죽숨들이다. 죽숨다 주핀이데 방이었건 봤어. 방이 되지네 방매 봤어. 집에 내서 투배 가자 돼. 대배 취재. 그치? 빌레도스. 그베타도 받았는데 맞았어. 근심 문제 방매 주고냐. 신의 받았는데 맞추대야. 다가 진짜 때고 남자들 가보소된 통대 대제신스. 다들 안에 네. 시팅 식스.
Now the fourth subsubject is the practice, to practice heedfulness. So Nagarjuna states, the sage said that heedfulness is the source of the nectar, and heedfulness is the source of death. Hence, to increase your virtue, with respect, always remain heedful. One who has formerly been heedless, but later becomes heedful-like, will also be resplendent like the moon free from cloud, as in the case of Nanda, Angulimala, Ajashutra, and Udayana.
먼저 던져 안에 바이오스 받아 지단 게 안에 모자 트여도 템베고네 안에 개베셈 송어 봐. 몇 개월 줘라 만들어 봤어요. 삼로 줘라. 대저 안에 진짜 삼로 때나 안에 바이오스. 저도 바이오스 때는 지단 게 개체 못 잡고다. 아니 바이오 되는 하신 소다. 또 방매 잡아야 나 뺐다 장난을 썩었던 릉아 줘봐. 가지고 좀 채돼 줘라. 들어 방매 소다. 배창에 동에를 쏘바 칸에 담으라 시에를 쏘바다직 르기 남주다 가래나 배트고라 야메 당대 저르배 되절 안에 방메스 바이오스나 배시 시시트베트 바 가래나들 룡아 줘바 가래나 바데 야보된 된 거죠 어딜라 방이었어.
So the heedfulness is a mind, which is due to our common understanding of the sort of a social construct or sort of a society's way of doing things, the norms of the society, and thus with the understanding which actions are proper and which actions are improper, to restrain oneself from doing something which goes beyond the understanding of proper actions. So it is stated here that heedfulness is like the nectar, whereas to be heedless is like consumption of alcohol or anything that makes you lose your sense. So by the action of heedlessness, we do things which are shameful. We do things which have consequences, which are non-virtuous, and therefore heedlessness or heedless action of heedlessness or heedless is an action that is just like consumption of alcohol, whereas the heedfulness is an action that is like the consumption of the nectar.
그래서 나한테 고물을 쪽에 잡아도 줘서 뭐처럼 안에 개배슈 맞죠 잡아도 잡아 혼자 배워봤어. 다 개봤던 적 야부 쪽으로스 아니 뒤쪽에는 소소가네 섬도 그런 트리비얼 소고요레스 당연히 가르쳐 와야나 다데 연결했어요. 시수 아니 야구 차야 되는 요레스 벤다와게 점점 징베 찜나 야구랑 징베 바탕도 요레스 되나 신든다 아니 뭐마데 가보다 아니 수메정와 어 대제라서 동대다 대제라서 된도야 소소소 그냥 담보도 자자 시수 야보잖아요. 타바토에 되는 요레스 좀 님보되는 요레스.
So here Nagarjuna says to King Gautamiputra, he says that even if you might not have done hateful actions, or might not resort yourself to hatefulness till this point, you can still start from this point. And just like, and he has given the example, he said that just like a moon that has been covered by cloud, it can appear again it can resplendent and shine again once the clouds have faded. So similarly, Nagarjuna gives the example of Nanda, Angulimala, Ajashutra, and Odiyana, who in their former life, have committed great sins. But later, when they denounce all those actions, when they start redeeming themselves, they have lived a very wonderful life and achieved great things. And these stories are very wonderful stories about Nanda, Angulimala, Ajashutra, and Odiyana.
답변은 가보세요. 대신에 좀 되다 빈자로 저 중 가보세요. 대체 너 고랑데 아니 미제랑 그래도 뭐 대가서 좀 되대 대화시오 제 니마지 좀 되대 소년 배가 가서 그런 게 소년 표현 말아 아니 졸로 좀 되대 그걸 좀 되다 신나게 배우고 냐뭐요 아니 최도는 아니고 최치를 대화시오 너 그런 게 때문에 될 작바 작바왕 그때 그런데 르당 뭐도 같이 내내당 잡아서 좀 되대 다뭐 그거도 되니 삐고 잘 거지 삐고 잘 거지 된다 되다 저런 게 때문에 가르쳐 봐도 돼 다데 하나 때문에 제가 또 올라 다 졸라 좀 그냥 주거든 하게 내들 다 하게 그다 보면은 배 그냥 돈 얘기도 공부 싶어 때문에 되다 나 보다 저런 하고 보면 되다 저런 게 때문에 가르쳐 봐도 되네 될 하고 보면 제가 또 저런 하게 되게 잘 되어 봐요 된텔라서 관 최대는 담아대고 그냥 넘내체 담아도 되지 않아도 됐어 심한 삼나요 뭐 대주는 넘내체 담아대는 거나 자주부터 배우는 뒤에
So the first one, Ananda. So Ananda being one of the siblings of, one of the relative of Buddha. So he used to offer Buddha alms or food. But one day, one day he didn't offer the food, and he followed Buddha into the forest. He said, "Oh Buddha, I want to follow your path." But then he had a great attachment to his own wife. And so in that time, what happened is that Buddha manifested into a old monkey, a old blind monkey, and then asked Nanda, who is more uh, beautiful, this monkey or your wife? And then Nanda said, definitely, my wife is so much more prettier than this monkey. And then later, Buddha said, okay. And then he manifested the goddess from the god realm. And then he said, Nanda, who is more beautiful, this goddess or your wife? And Nanda said, definitely, this goddess is more beautiful than my wife. And then in the initial state, Buddha, what he did is that he didn't denounce the emotions of attachment, but he tried to bring him in with that particular emotion. He said that if you want to attain someone like this goddess, you must first come and practice. And then in initial stage, he started with this type of motivation, but later, because of the teaching of Buddha, his mind truly inclined towards the dharma. And then he started practicing dharma wholeheartedly. And finally, by the end of his life, he attained the state of arahant.
아니바데 소매 정화세다. 소매 정화세다 지금 기회 가서 배트 보고 약보시 왜지. 다 배트 속에 나래 리포트는 장보시 오시대. 다 자가라 넘어 로스에서 보기와 나다 되게 때 가세. 되는 살이야 트윈. 다들 생각들 트윈. 내 간데 차사서는 다 보고 뭐 뭘로 좀 되버는 시고 차사를라도. 텔레자 건조게 돼 가서 감색 해와 시오지다 럽좀 시오이죠. 특히 좀 뭐뭐 있죠. 디자 럽좀 제가 보면 이거 당하셨다고. 럽좀 제가 당하셨. 럽좀 때 럽좀 때 보고 싶어라. 니마 즉시 니마 같고 둘다 찍고해도 그 니마 즉시 신. 어느 속부터는 때 인도고. 레나노게 리포트는 짱 항상 때. 남산한테 시동 미래 진대지도. 진대줘라. 다 데이트는 데 아니 그게 럽은 데 아니 저 디저라 팀메트 골라 잡고 잡았지. 다 님베데 잡아 넘버데 봐. 데 개개도 파치로 이렇게 도시 맞지가 가서 다 거기 이마저랑 되지. 나와줘서 담면 시에서라. 출납되잖아요. 거야 잡니다. 그 저런 거 저런 게 개개인 재미를 해서 하는데 저런 데를 이렇게 하거든요. 제가 용기 말했어. 너무 또 난데 쭉 잡아 그런 게 조가라다데 개개인 그 수면장 개개인 술라되잖아요. 딱 그런 거 담면 시월라도 동도 와도 담면 쓴 그런 거 뚝뚝뚝 다시 뭐 치기도 가. 건 나보세요. 건 나보세요. 딱 개개인 쫄란다 전에. 다 어디에 도중 담은. 망다.
Angulimala, when he was born with a very beautiful physical features and a very sharp mind. And then his parents brought him to the astrologers who made who made the astrology. They said that, oh, if you take this boy and then put him into the discipline of study, he's going to be such a great person in the future. And so the parents they took him to the school. In those times, those were the school of the Brahmins. So they took him to a school of a Brahmin, and then he was a very accomplished scholar. And so as he studied under this scholar, he would be able to comprehend a concept in one day, which would take the other students a week, more than a week. And then he became a very good student, and as he grew up, he became both mentally and physically graceful. And so the wife of his teacher had the sexual attachment to him, as a desire towards him. Then one day, when the teacher went into the court by the invitation of the king, the wife told Angulimala, she said, you must stay with me, you must bed me. Then Angulimala said, no, you are the wife of my teacher, I can never bed you. It is against my principles. And so when the teacher came back, the wife falsely accused. She said that, oh, the student of yours have harassed me. He touched my face, he touched my body in such a way. And then the teacher became angry.
네, 어땠습니다. 다 남주대 김에대 남주처럼 쉬고 쓰고 왔다대. 대 동화사대. 동화라도 미동화사도 그게나. 근데 소매정 되게 다 남주 쉬고야 보통 하다 그때 쳐서 다 그게 대 돌아다 준 다저랑 간다 보정 말라가 명아질라이스. 베트. 다대나 대 명아들라와 나처럼 자제주 쪽 그랬어. 자제 부터고서는 미동다 쓰고 그랬어. 미동다 쓰 미스 동미래는데 저거래 아니 때 그거를 주는 차가나 줬어 그랬어. 대상마스 뒤나지나 사고였어. 대상마스는 애는 줄 안다. 내가 듣다고 그래도 근데 진짜 그래도 저런 남지 진짜 미스는 아니 되게 말아 미스는 되게 제가 그래도 저런 내가 갈라거든 연구를 생각해 줘랬어. 그 만들어놓은 도끼는 다 미스가 가서 갈라 세고를 심해. 미스세세세 타마들다 니가 타마들라 미상마 그 세그래서 미상마 뭐라나 그다찬 미상마 트렌 지로 된 거 말. 다니면 고랑 아마디스 니가 칼라마서 올고 미스가 줘. 칼라마서 미 탭대상 뭐 세고 아마데 셈바죠다 자 수수비 미시말라 콜라 칼라자가 따나 돈을 말아 코세그라 베데다 니바제 칼라 저것도 요르테 누나 수지 칼라사요마서 아마마랑 거스 되네 칼라자가 더 코세가르고 다 세가르도 되네다 아마게 대주랑 하면서 가세버는 주랑 안티세 세메레사르다 다 칼세메레사나 칼이나가데 루벤 카레스 다 세가르도네 좀 되게 되네 결론적 찾아라 대 덤대바 페더 다 아마세 잠시안에 좀 되게 그래 좋다 좀 되들 저 될라다 맞대들거든 좀 되게 나때 저런 되면 그 대해서 치료 기다셔도 나 때우도 저런 되면 저런 나 때고 요때 저런 되면 그래서 카스 거렸어 나도 그 좋았던데 근데 해 저런 나 안에 뱉다 이거 뭐 탐제 상자에 강사들에서 근데 내가 봐 도자되는 맞아 대주 생고레스 저런 대주면 몇 소째 담을 씌워 치기도 한데 신고 라고라 레디드 마살아 요는 신에 좀 되다 사제 안에 좀 되다 주되네 신에 하는 거야 타바토 그래서 어딘데도 도도시는 좀더 뒤로 이제 좀
So as the wife told the teacher, she said that, oh, the Angulimala that you always praise, like he's your best student. Look at him, what he has done to me. And when the wife told the teacher became very furious. And then he told to Angulimala, come to me. Today I will teach you something, a teaching that I have taught no one. Then he said that you must go and kill 1,000 people, and then you must cut their finger, and then make a necklace of 1,000-finger necklace, and you have to wear it in your neck. Only after you have done that, come to me, and I will show you the true teaching of liberation. And then Angulimala inquired, he said, but teacher, every time you teach us, you say that killing is an action that is considered sinful. Then isn't killing someone a sinful action? He said, you cannot question me in this. This is a secretive teaching. You cannot question me on this. Just go out there and kill 1,000 people and wear that necklace of 1,000 fingers and come to me, and I'll give you the true teaching. And then so he set forth killing people, and he said, come back in 1 week. And then for that 1 week, he went killing on a killing spree. He killed. And then then he became renowned as the murderer, Angulimala. And then people were afraid of traveling where he used to be in the forest. But then his own mother knew that he hadn't eaten for many days. So she, with a great loving and kindness, she brought food for him. And then Angulimala said that I will have to kill you because I have to fulfill 1,000, because he had already accomplished 999. He only need one. He said, I'll have to kill you for the final finger. The mother said, you shouldn't kill me. If you kill me, it will be a cardinal sin, and you'll go directly to hell. He said, doesn't matter. My guru has told me this. I shall do this. But then at the moment he was almost going to kill his mother, he saw that Buddha was traveling on the other path. Then he started chasing and following behind Buddha. And from far, furiously, he said, hey, you, stop there, rest there. And then Buddha said, I am already rested. You are the one who is restless. Then he said, what do you mean I am restless? I'm standing here. He said that I don't mean your physical body. I mean the mind. My mind is already free of fear and doubts. I am already rested. It is your mind which is full of fear and doubt and is restless. You must now rest. And then when Buddha said this, he threw down the sword and then prostrated to Buddha, kneeling to him, and then became Odin. And finally, in the last part of his life, he became an Arahat.
나 딜러서 왔다는 잡고 맞게저 파세 아니 치수에는 줘봤더니 다 좀부터서 근데 대체세대 파세 잡을 맞게 파세보다 대체 맞세 치수냐 줘봤더니 추념래전에 다마다 좀부터 그랬어 어떤데 대여랬어 다보대 아니 방매나 치수 받았던 거 줘요랬어.
So for example, Ajashutra, he was someone who has imprisoned and killed his own father, King Bimbasar. And after that, with great regret, he went to Buddha, and Buddha gave him teaching. And at the end of his life, he also attained Arahat. And Odiyana, he killed his mother. And after great regret of killing his mother, he went to Buddha, and Buddha gave him the discourse. And then at the end of his lifetime, he also attained Arahat.
나 딘데도 진짜 다 딘데도 세나야 저저도로다 양가셔들라 열었습니다.
So this is it for today, Geshe said, for today's session. So, Geshe Chua Yulan Geshe.
그래 저거는
So Geshe is asking, does anyone have questions regarding today's session?
Yes, I have a question. It's a question about practicing observing continence on special day. What is considered a special day when we choose to practice this continence?
Geshe tantang 저기 디 tantang 저기 동반에 저도 저기 저기 tantang 세사보다 라소바텐델nga 저기 뇽네 동바 라소바텐델 렌도 데 동바 된종아 저래 라 세상보라 나 칸티 세상보라 나 니마 칸티 찍고 했었어.
근데 다 저저 티아바전에서는 당은 저기 베베게 로도도 시작하나 제가 중앙도 아니 난강 딘데도 냐동 체제 제가 제일했어. 다들 많이 봐 답하면 그냥 싸갔다 봤어요. 딘데 가서 양 저저 티아바전으로 뒤 티아바전. 딘데 가서 나 저 남들 내역들 로소리 요랬어.
So The auspicious days are, according to the Tibetan lunar calendar, it will be on the 8th of each month. It will be on the 15th, and it will be at the 30th, or the final day of a month, the day of the new moon. The final day, sorry, the final day of the month. And then any other auspicious day, such as the month of the Saka, you can take on any day of the month of the Saka, or any other auspicious day, like the day when Buddha descended from the heaven. So all of these auspicious days could be considered a day when you can take these 8 precepts.
딜레야냥 데요레스 소저게 초가요레스 초가도 롬해지다 딘데지게다 경론으로 저거 직 되네 랭고를 맞 소저인데 제가 쌈비야 니네 돈 받치고 말았어 돈 발렘 받는 직 상사직 되네 졸래 어딘데 야 초가 시작도 내 랭고요레스.
And for this particular 8 precept, for taking this 8 precept, there is a ritualistic text. There's a ritualistic text for the 8 precept, taking the 8 precept. And so you should take it from an ordained monk, these precept. You cannot take it by yourself. So you should ask them to read the ritual, and then accordingly, you should take these 8 precept.
근데 내게 소저게 디체나 가서 저제 제가 가서 진도 정말 랄레다나 디고르스 이나 돈 받으라 말아 제가 저르마다 랄레다와나 디고르스 소저게 받도 마서스.
If you, even though if you don't take the precept from an ordained monk, if you don't take the precept, if you just do the action, definitely the action will bear fruit. You will acquire a very great amount of merits. But then because you haven't taken the vow, you will not be considered someone who have taken the vow for that particular practice on that particular day. The amount of virtue that you will accumulate will be less. So the only difference with and without taking the precept from an ordained monk, according to the ritualistic text, is that there will be a difference in the amount of merits accumulated.
Okay, thank you for that, Geshe. I have another question too, but I can let maybe if other people have, they can ask and then can come back to me.
So, kung chua gwani chi yus, and shemba denzo chua na tangbo kurshu, and kurang gwani chua chi kurking is less.
I have a question, please.
Yes.
I understand the ultimate view is emptiness. Well, I say that, obviously I'm not at that level. So would it be correct to approach this text in the context that we are not at that level, and therefore everything is relayed from a relative perspective?
가슴스 나 계시랑 저기 타투기 따와딩 아주 쳐 탐정 원이 동배 동수대로 아주 안 대인자 뭐라이나가 저 타투기 내루데 디인바딜랑 아주 있다 다 세제기네 제정 아주 직접 고수기 요송스 맞더네 타당 아주 내제디 메디 타다 차랑아 저기 디 세진기 또 타당 아주 세진기 저기 땡주지 여러 와 계시라 대등 아주 강상아 수수기 아주 캄다 메베비 왕기 저기 호랑기 고암 레레렌 초그레 벨스가죠.
다단다 데 동반이 갔다 왔을 때 남상 고갈래네 디레도 삼상에 왔지 초쪽에 렐라버죠 말스다데 데 덴바레스 다시 데나나 시제데 소적에 배세잖아 단다 아니 니네라 소파 건발래 아니 녀mol라 따다 봤다에 딘델라 소파 소적 고갈래나 되고스 제가 동반이 갔다 와서 소파다 얼마 용그리스 데가서 용그리스 어딘데 소적에 고가데 레나되고 이나 고가 양 따빠지어라 너가 된데 렘바이나 야티 따다 되고 말아 고가 따다 되고요나 되고스 고갈래나.
So Geshe said that definitely the ultimate nature of things being empty of intrinsic nature is the truth. It's the ultimate nature of phenomena. And yes, it is something that is extremely difficult to understand, and not something that one can understand in a span of few days or months or maybe even in a lifetime. So therefore, to view this text in that context is something that would be absurd for everyone. And so one can view this text according to their understanding, pertaining that their understanding and their perception of this text is not contaminated by wrong views. So as long as you have the right views, you can perceive it accordingly. It is relative, but only until and unless it is perceived through an idea or perception that is not incorrect.
Thank you.
Is it okay if I ask my last question?
Geshe Morangi
So-
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I have a question about the attachment. When Geshe discussed attachment as one of the three poisons, and there was attachment to fame and authority and all of those things. And he mentioned that even though attachment helps us achieve things, ultimately it's not good. Recently, I was reading a Buddhist text, and I can't remember which one. It was some months ago, and it was also talking about attachment in similar way. And there was, I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but there was something mentioned about attachment helping us to achieve certain goals or things, like maybe it could be in a business, or maybe if you want to make a, like a hospital or something as to help people or to help your own family. And it said that sometimes some degree of attachment is okay while you're achieving your goal, but eventually when you've achieved it, you have to let it just go later on once you've finished achieving your goal. So I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but I think what they were saying is that a certain degree of temporary attachment just to help you achieve your goal is fine, as long as you don't carry on that attachment. So I was wondering if Geshe can, just give some like make some comments about that.
나서 계실라 코란기 그래 송슬나 다 당긴 가서 계실라 기대 송소 차과 셰바딩아 저기 어 지가 저기 당보다지 따요나 저기 차와 가리지 두바이나 저기 차과 셰바딩아 저기 지펜토기 옆에 모도랑 저 텐데지 펜토기 요라지 요레스 어떤 딜랑아 저기 약포지 제소나 디긴아 저기 뇌게 마도 펜토아 요마리 송소슬라서라 맞죠 아니 코란기 니마 카싱에 대한 저기 낭취했던 제유기가 저기다 탭다 텐저다 로인슬라스요랑 아저 디난도 가르송도라는 저기 미천낭로라 차와 벤차스나 교반조 사야라 소바다 총게라 소바다 덴데지 차와치 아니 밀라 펜바체 낭미기 턴도 깔레기 교반조 사야라 아저 착바셰바데 메낭아 디깔레기 아토 마레스 파기난 가르치샬라나 저기 차와디 트룹다 트룹 심베 컵수 nga 저기 착바디 제 송제 조거레스 차와 트룹 심베 컵수 nga 저 착바디 팔려샤나 nga 저기 교요 마레스라치 디간레 계실라게 섬주 카르토스라스
아주 단거 착발해줘라. 되자세 저 ngô 호랑 간대 뭐 자정 아주 시에 말아. 되자 ngô 간대 뭐 되시고 백해서 뭐. 자정 아주 착박에 니바트 잡고 시에셔라. 착바선에 가르쳐서는 영업에 내줄래. 착발도도. 영업에 내줘라 야고데 야인 납주이나 그 도단 야지 야 같은 거. 오늘 저 그런 게 약대 야가 채시로 딱 야자고는 납줄래 요면은 착박 방경은 저 대탄 버지 야 같은 거. 대 착발했어요. 네 안에 되자서 같은 걸 내줄 착발 도도 그 집에 안에 삼도 줘라. 내가 착발했어. 당고 대에는 거 있어요. 계속 보시 버렸어. 대직자 안에 진에 단다디 안에 룹시 바가서 착박서는 착바다 안에 소소 미유세 줘라. 그거 다 미유다 착박서는 로가 쳐버려. 상동에서 봐. 딱 그거 싶어 직쳐도. 근데 깔에 잡아야나 대 착박서 간 세고 버렸어. 그 미유세 맞ам들었어. 그나 상제 그 삼성게 상제고 또 삼성가 삼로디 아니 상제를 착박서 개 레스가 말았어. 착박서야 된 거죠. 저는 유대 아니 그래가지고서나 상제를 착박 세워 받아 가지고 착박서는 아니 대 사제 년년 쉬어보다 사제 년년 그 쳐질라 미네 공외에 내들 하고 더 쳐야 되나 차파서 산제를 미고 차고요 말씀.
So Geshe answered. He said that, so definitely. So previously we just discussed the negative consequence of having attachment, but we didn't discuss the very nature of attachment. So according to text, attachment, what is attachment? It is defined as a mind that exaggerates the property of something, making it seem more lovely or more of a desirable than it actually is. So for example, something is 50% good. Our attachment will exaggerate it and make it 100% good. So this mind of delusion, so the nature of this mind is delusion. So the mind of delusion that exaggerates the good quality of something in making us desire it is known as attachment. And so Geshe said that we should draw a very clear distinction between attachment, objective, and purpose, and our aspirations. To aspire for something, to have something as our objective, is not something that is wrong, and it is not attachment. For example, if we look at Buddha and we say like, oh, I aspire to be like you, this is not attachment. If you want to help someone and you say like, oh, I aspire to help you people, I have the objective of helping you, this is not attachment. Attachment should be known as something that is born from affliction, provides suffering. So if something that is born from affliction and only provides suffering, that is what we understand by attachment. So therefore, in these cases, these mind could either be aspirations or objective, which helps us to attain our goals. And these are not attachments.
Thank you very much for that answer, Geshe.
Okay, thank you. I think now we should stop here today session.
Let's recite the dedication prayers. I'm going to share the not sure if I can set the screen. Okay, sorry. Dedication prayer from Shantideva's way of Bodhisattva. May all beings everywhere, plagued by suffering of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid of the little, with a mind weighed down by the crush. May the blind see forms, and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May all the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timeless rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicine be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and heal quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever disease there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as spirits remain, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. I would like to end the session by thanking Geshe. for these precious teachings, and Tenzin Lakpa for the translation. Thank you so much. And Moonlight Jamse Tibetan Buddhist Center for offering this class, and all the participants to be here with us. And before closing the session, I would like to remind you that the next class will take place on the 28th of April at 3 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you, Geshe. Thank you, Tenzin Lakpala. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Lakula and Ila and all of you. See you next time.